Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 214. We have a PTR update that just went live very recently, I believe just an hour or two, that we will cover, making sure you guys get all the live updates immediately. And then we have some other things as well, such as classic Battlegrounds to talk about. But before we get into those things, let me introduce myself. I am Annie Fuchsia, or also known as Annie. I am a full-time streamer on Twitch and your weekly Wowhead Weekly host. Without my lovely co-host Perk, or Perculia, this would not be possible though. So let's also introduce her.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. I have a purring bright paw, so I won't be waving because he wants to be pet. But we really appreciate everyone being here for this slightly delayed show because we had a show, but it wasn't really that exciting. And then the PTR hit with things like the Long Boy going away and glowing Death Knight eyes, and we thought it was worth doing the whole PTR and finding everything so the show would be more interesting. So you are getting super fresh news in this show that is only an hour or two old.
I had to quickly remove the bar thing that shows your name just so that we can see
Right.
Brightpaw's face because it was kind of covering and it's so cute. Look at him.
Yes.
So content. Yes, we do love Brightpaw. And I think Brightpaw is also looking forward to today's show.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
There's battle pets in the show. I think he likes battle pets,
Yes, I think so
even though
too.
they're not him. Well,
No.
he was named after the charity pet, and
Yes.
our show covers another charity pet, so I think he likes the idea
Oh.
of charity pets.
And that's a very nice transition, actually. Maybe we
Yep.
should go straight into it. Yes, we do have a new charity pet this year, 2019. The baby alpaca called Dottie. Let's show a picture
Yep.
of it. As we have
So
seen in previous charity pets, they are very, very, extremely cute.
yes, hear that, Bright Paw? The charity pets are cute.
Yes, they
Um.
are. I say that and then I
So
can't find the image actually. You can keep talking and I'll find it.
okay. So we saw an image of this at BlizzCon 2019, but the pet was not data mineable from all angles, and we couldn't preview the animations or anything like that, or we couldn't learn about its moveset. And in today's PTR build, they added all of that. So, if Brightpaw, you will let me move my hand. I'm pulling up exactly what it said.
Here we go. And we got a
The
picture.
there we go.
Now you can see
Yay!
it.
Awesome.
Yay.
So the charity pet, the name, the description is: "Don't be fooled by Dottie's soft coat and fur. Sorry, Brightpaw. And big eyes. Her tiny sharp teeth are for more than just munching on grass. And
Oh.
all purchases of this pet will go towards the Make-A-Wish Foundation and we.org.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still not available for purchase on the shop, but this model was hidden for a while and just revealed today. And usually when they do that for shop items, it goes on sale very soon after.
Mm-hmm. I'm
And it's
so
so
happy. It
cute.
is very, very cute. And just like Nixon in the chat mentions, it feels better buying pets when the money goes for charity. Yes, I am so
Yes.
for it. I love it. It's like you can invest a bunch of money into this pet, which means that you're supporting the charity. And for example, if you're an influencer like myself, like a streamer, then I can do giveaways on stream. I'm supporting charity and I'm giving pets to people in my community. So it's like, everyone's happy. And I'm sure Wowhead will also run some giveaways for this pet as well. I know
Yeah.
you guys have done in the past as well. So it's like you're supporting charity and you're giving people things that they can have fun with in the game. It's awesome. And then usually I think that what they've done in the past is all the money goes to charity after, and then after a certain time, that's when the charity uh, section or the charity period
Yeah,
ends.
it's like for the first month or so
Yes.
after, or like for the rest of the year, it
Yes.
goes to charity,
Yeah.
and then it goes to the shop. But it's very clear when it stops being for
Yeah,
charity.
so
So
it doesn't go away or anything. It stays there and then it's just like a regular store pet. So I would suggest people get it before it becomes a regular store pet,
yeah,
just so that you have that extra supporting of charity. I really like the whole system of it. I think it's awesome.
yeah. the model is adorable. There's so many details. I love how it has the little W on its collar,
Oh, I never noticed
like the
that.
Warcraft W. So that's cute.
Oh,
And it does the
yes.
same
And is
little
that
cute
little
jumpy.
backpack on the side?
Yeah, it's so cute.
That is adorable.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been a lot of new updates to do with backpacks. Have you noticed that
Yeah.
too? Like we have
It's
the
like,
cloaks with the
yeah.
backpacks, we have pets with backpacks, we have mounts with backpacks. Like everything is now a backpack
Yeah, it's
suddenly.
like they figured out the backpack tech for Recruit a
Yeah.
Friend, and now it's like everything has a backpack. Like we're gonna, we
Yep.
were totally right when we're like, could they be trying out some new backpack tech? But we see backpacks on more
Uh-huh.
things, and now it's like everyone has a backpack.
Yes, everyone and everything, which is interesting enough. Another great transition into the second thing here, talking about the
Yeah.
Volpera racial, which apparently is 8 extra bag slots.
Yeah, this was pretty unexpected because, the allied races have seemed pretty set in stone since the first build, but apparently it's called Alpaca Saddlebags, increases the size of your backpack by 8 slots, and
Hmm.
then there's a new data mine bag, also called the Saddlebag, that has 36 slots.
Yeah, so what do you
So
think that's
people,
all about? So there's a racial that says 8 slots extra, right? And then there's an
yeah,
actual bag with 36 slots. So are those
yeah.
separate?
So we were thinking that maybe you could get the bag as like a side perk if you're doing the intro scenario
Mm-hmm.
to, welcome the Vulpera in.
Mm-hmm.
But then the Vulpera get that special racial.
Okay. And do you think
Um,
that means that our new tailoring bags will probably have 36 slots too in that case?
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it just seems I think that's what it means. But the PTR, this build was weird because it hit before the PTR realms went up, so we couldn't verify a lot of this in game.
Mm-hmm.
But when we saw the site update with this, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess this is a thing that if it's on the site, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably a real type of racial they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of their other racials, if you mix it, have to deal with bags and caravans as well. So there's you rummage through your bag to pull out a trick. You can make a camp at your location and then return to the camp.
Mm-hmm.
There's a survival kit where you find extra satchels of goods when you're killing humanoids. There's a lot of kind of bag peddler type racials
Mm-hmm.
with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, people are just like, oh, they sound so cool. Like you get a bag, nothing else in the game gives you more bag space.
No, I mean, except for the, using Authenticator, right?
Right.
There's nothing
That's
that
only
gives you,
four.
yeah, there's nothing that gives you bonus backspace. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, they even had an expansion, I believe it was Legion, where they didn't even increase the amount of back slots in, right? I think, because
Right.
in Legion, I think the max was 30 slots, and in the previous expansion, it was also 30 slots, so it never actually increased.
Right.
Um, so the Hexweave bags were still best in slot.
Right.
In terms of backspace, they felt like backspace was going too crazy, I think, so they didn't increase any. So that's also interesting because this new bag that we see is 36 slots, and I believe currently the max is 32 slots. So that's +4 potentially for
Yeah.
everyone, or maybe Volpera's only. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the number of bag spaces quickly on WoW to see if I can find the uh max level 1. The
Mm-hmm.
embroidered deep sea bag is 32.
Mm-hmm.
Deep sea is 30.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Hexweave
yeah.
is 30 as well, right? And I think there's something else
Uh
that's also 30.
let's see. Come on down. It's really hard to navigate when you've got this cat in your lap
Yeah, I
who's
can
like,
imagine.
me, I am important. Um yeah, Hexweave is 30.
Yeah.
And the Madman's luggage, the very expensive bag is 34.
Wait, which one's that?
The Mad Merchant in Dalaran.
That one
So
is
you can
34?
buy, yeah, but it's 500,000 per bag.
Are they unique?
Yes, it's unique.
I don't think I have
So
that
you can only
bag.
get one of them. Oh, well, maybe you should. Yeah, you should. You should
Interesting.
go farm him and get the bag.
Huh. What was the bag called? Or it's from the Mad
Madman's
Merchant.
luggage. Yeah. So look for the Mad Merchant, and he will be there.
Huh. Interesting. 34
So yeah,
stat bag. Uh-huh.
36 bags are definitely notable because there's nothing else that's 36 slots, and it could hint that in Shadowlands we're getting slightly bigger bags after things sort of, stagnated for a bit.
It does sound like that. Yeah, we
Yep.
have the Hex Weave at 30, Deep Sea Bag is at 30 as well, and then Imbued Silk Weave is also 30.
My cat is just being ridiculous and amazing how he's now
Oh,
grooming himself in my arm.
so cute.
Yeah. So yeah, bigger bags seem to be on the way for Vopera, and maybe if you recruit them as well, and we'll try playing through the scenario when it's up to get a sense if there's, someone selling the bag or what exactly is up with that. Oh yeah, so this next topic is quite
Yeah, this
interesting.
one's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So we mentioned it in the intro or in the tweet, actually both. The Brutosaur mount, also known as the Long Boy, is going away from the vendor in Borealis. It was introduced. And Zuldazar too.
Going,
sorry,
yeah.
I forget that there's a
all
whole faction
from
all vendors.
Only where the dinosaur come from.
Yeah, it's going away from both factions, not only Alliance. And with it going away, there will be a feat of strength added to the game for everyone who owns one, and instead of going away completely, what they're doing is putting it on the black market auction house, which is interesting because what will this mean when it's actually on there? Will it probably go for less than 5 million? Will it go for more than 5 million? Most people who probably have more than 5 million probably already bought it, and if they don't have it, then I could still see it cost a couple millions at least.
Especially with gold inflation, if it always gets easier to make gold every expansion, somewhat, 5 million in Shadowlands might be easier than 5 million in BFA.
That's true too. And it's a mount which will always be very, very useful, and it's still quite rare, I would say. I don't see a lot of people with this mount, so I think a lot of people would have their eyes on the black market auction house to try and get it. So I think it'll still be in the millions.
Yeah, the blue post was very dark about this. It was like all dinosaurs, the mighty caravan Brutosaur's days are numbered.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god, like, are they getting extinct? This seems
they're going
very
extinct.
realistic. And then, in the Zara lore, there is that whole bit where the Alliance invading the city were killing the dinosaurs, and they were sort of, dead on the side. So it's like, did we kill them canonically after the after the battle? Another thing Work Chat was suggesting was, we basically got the Wrath Invasion 2.0 leading up to Shadowlands, so it's like with the Helm of Domination destroyed, and the Scourge running around, are they attacking the dinosaurs?
Oh, like a lore behind it.
Yeah, it's like, are the cities going to be invaded by these undead, and we have to, like all the dinosaurs in Zandalar and the boats in Tiergard Sound are all the defenses going to be used to repel all these things? But yeah, it seems. As a side note, the other expensive things that aren't as expensive are staying. So the Platysaur pet and the Direhorn mount, those are still going to be there.
Yeah. But it's only the auction house mount going away.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on this? Because I don't know, it just seemed okay to let people have stuff, I guess. Like, they didn't really give a reason.
Honestly, I'm surprised that there was so much negative outburst on this. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like it's okay for it to be on the black market auction house. Most people who have tons of gold have already spent the 5 million. So I think it probably worked very well as a gold sink, which was probably the initial reason for it to be that expensive. And people who didn't have the gold may now have a chance if it doesn't go for 5 million, which it may not after it's been on the server a few times. So I think letting some people get it for a bit less than 5 million is okay. I don't know. Like, feel free to tell us your opinions in the chat as well. I'm very curious why people don't like that it's going away, because it's very expensive. If you don't like it going away and you think you're gonna buy it, then, well, you can just
I think it crystallizes for some people that, like, oh, you know, at some point in the future I was going to grind and, like, I'm never going to get it. Like, it's always a fear of missing out. Like, people, you know, they've never removed a mount like this before. I think it was always, you know, only raid mounts. So,
but I mean, it might potentially be cheaper now.
Right, but then you have to farm it on the auction house, or you can't just, like,
yes,
you know, you might not be able to go out and get it. But I think maybe other people are worried that if Blizzard is starting to remove mounts that aren't from raiding, sure, maybe this is expensive, but what if they start removing, like, other mounts or other reasons to like get people into a frenzy to you know, like, you know, play now, get this now before it goes away. Like, everyone is all speculating that Blizzard is trying to create, you know, artificial scarcity, or like drive up the price of WoW tokens. You know, you want to buy a token so you can get quick gold easily for this mount. So they're making people kind of go into a frenzy before, you know, when it's usually like subscribers are going down, and now they're doing something that could potentially make people get tokens to, I don't know.
I mean,
move things back up.
Definitely. I think there could be some negative outburst based on that. Like, oh, Blizzard is doing this just to make people buy tokens to buy the mount, since it's going away. But I feel like I read a comment here in the chat as well. People who are complaining about it will never earn it either way. It will not be cheaper unless your server is incredibly dead. It will be gold cap on most servers, guaranteed. Is that guaranteed though? Like, do you think that somebody who has over gold cap right now is deciding not to buy the mount, but then will spend gold cap in a couple months after it's been removed?
Well, there are people that could be taking a break as well. So, no, I think that if people are playing now religiously and have lots of gold, they've already bought it. But if, you know, I guess some people are thinking that, oh, you know, like, my friend always, like, playing, but they're taking a break, or they're coming back with Shadowlands, that type of person may not, you know, a lot of people may not know this mount is going away.
Yeah, I think there could be some cases where it goes for a lot more than 5 million on that auction house, but I think in general, especially at the beginning, anyone who was willing to pay more than 5 million would have already paid it. So I think at the beginning it would be less. Like, I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 million, maybe even push a little bit towards the 4 million. People who had not, like, quite not enough gold but still want to have it. I think they would. I think in the future, like you mentioned, maybe with inflation and new expansion and more gold in general, at that point, I think it could maybe go for gold cap. So in a future perspective, I can see how it's bad. 5 million might be more obtainable in, like, let's say 2 years or so. So then at that point, it's unfair that it's now, let's say, gold cap on the black market auction house, and it was 5 million on the vendor.
See, like, if this is meant to be a sign of your, like, you know, economic prowess, that you know, were able to grind 5 million gold in BFA, and maybe that's not as impressive in Shadowlands. I can see why maybe this mount was being moved to a feat of strength, but Blizzard didn't really give a detailed reasoning why, and I can see why some people could be concerned, like, oh, you know, what happens if Blizzard just removed, like, the Falcosaur grind, you know, one day they were just saying, you know, it's going away in a patch, or, you know, some mount from a quest line. Like, you know, what happens if they start pulling things and making people feel they have to do something now, or else they can never do it again, besides just the raid mounts. But yeah, this is all very new, only a few hours old at the time of us reporting on this.
It's still very new, and I'm very curious about more of the criticism part of it, because I think it's interesting to look at things. Now, with talking to you, Park, a little bit about it, I can see that in the future perspective, like, you know, a few years down the line, when gold becomes more available, I can see how it's annoying, because at that point, maybe a lot of people have 10 million gold. But they never bought it when it was 5 million, and now it goes for more than that on the black market auction house. But I think initially, um, in the first year or so, I think it's better for people who couldn't afford it because I think it will be cheaper.
Right. I mean, I guess we'll see how it plays out. I would like to have a serious blue post on it because we learned so we data mined the achievement and I read it and I'm like, does this mean the mount's going away? And my coworkers are like, no, it just means if you get it during BFA, you get a feat of strength. And then I'm like, I don't know. I think it means the mount's going away. And then they made the blue post confirming that the mount was actually going away.
Mm.
So I don't know. I think maybe I sort of like my original idea how you could still get it after, right, Paw?
Aw.
No.
He's like, okay, enough resting.
Yes.
I need to go
Oh my.
hunt some mice.
I like the idea that you could still get it after BFA from the vendor, but you wouldn't get the feat of strength.
Wait,
Like
is that how it's gonna be? Like, you don't get the feat
no
of
no.
strength?
Oh, so if you buy it in BFA, you will get a feat of strength.
Okay.
If you buy it from the auction house in Shadowlands,
You won't.
you will not get a feat of strength.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I'm saying that I think a good compromise if they want to reward people that earned, 5 million when it was maybe harder in BFA than Shadowlands is to keep it on the vendors, but not give the feat of strength in Shadowlands. I think that could maybe be a better. I think that would create a
Yeah.
lot less upset. People would they don't care about missing out on an achievement as
Achievement.
much.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think I can see that as a fair like trade-off, I guess is the word for
Yeah.
it. That way people who were able to afford it have a feat of strength to flash with, and everyone else can get it later. Like with a lot of things in the game,
Yeah,
like
it's
mythic
like
rating achievements and everything.
yeah, like I'm thinking of something like, killing the Lich King back in the day. Like, a lot of people could still do that, get their achievement, get their loot, but if you did it, if you got your cutting edge, not the cutting edge, if you did the achievement before the
Mm-hmm.
nerfs, you got a special feat of strength.
Mm-hmm.
And you could still get invincible after the nerfs. You could still get lots of things, special titles when you kill the boss, whenever on mythic difficulty. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, you have that timestamp, you have that feat of strength, knowing that you did something early.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, this boss is going away since you didn't, kill it in the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of just keeping the achievement to reward people for doing something in the timely fashion, but still letting people, grab the mount
Mm-hmm.
the same means at any point.
I see another comment in the chat by Wookie Cookies saying, "For all we know, there could be a new mount in Shadowlands that fills a similar role." That is
No,
also true.
what I was thinking?
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens if the dead Brutosaurs go to the Shadowlands?
Oh
And we
my
get
god,
a
like a
zombie.
scourge zombie Brutosaur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. we
Oh,
meet up with all the dead dinosaurs there.
oh my god. Yeah, that would be
Maybe that's
quite
why
sad.
maybe that's why it got messed up. All the dinosaur souls are going into the maw. They're not
Oh
regenerating.
no.
They're just stuck in
That's
the
why they
middle.
went extinct.
Yeah.
You know, that's gonna be interesting because I don't think they could straight up just do a copy of it. Like just
Right.
here's a mount with another auction house, but I think they could do
Yeah.
something interesting to still make it
Yeah,
possible to buy some kind
and
of
then
portal auction house. Maybe not a mount, maybe it's something else.
yeah, like in the Shadowlands blurb in our show today, we were discussing a new faction that kind of sounds like, I don't know, like enterprising, businessy types. Maybe they're tied to the auction house there. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that in a few.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what else was there in the notes, Bright Paw? Do you want to discuss Death Knight's Bright Paw? So,
but yeah, if you don't want to have to farm gold later, you may want to try to have 5 million gold as a goal before the expansion is over to get this mount. Gold farming you can do with I'm sure Wowhead has a lot of gold farming guides. You can play
we
around
are
with,
actually
with professions.
bringing back. Yeah, we're bringing back our weekly economy series actually because Gumdrops got busy with real life, but we have a replacement author lined up. So I think this is actually a really good time for them to start.
Definitely, I think this is a good time
the news
to help people, potentially push those last however much you're missing from the 5 million.
Yeah.
If you're missing, maybe some people are missing like 1 million because they've been working on it for some
Right.
time now. So
Yeah.
some gold farming can be in a good place now. There's so many different ways of farming gold. You just have to find a thing that you enjoy the most and
Yeah.
keep at it.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
another interesting thing is that this build added the option for Wowhead's dressing room to show all the different eye glows for Death Knights. So when you get Shadowlands, when you pre-purchase Shadowlands in A3, you can make an allied race or Pandaren Death Knight. And now our dressing room has all the blue eye glows. And I think we've got some example pictures of this, but the weirdest one for me is the Lightforged Draenei, because they've got blue eyes, not golden eyes.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That does come off really strange. Here's some pictures for you guys. We've got the Kultiran
Yeah.
up first, and a bunch of other races as well. I can also try to speed this up a little bit so we can go through them a little
Yeah.
bit faster. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, we got Volpera as well.
Yeah.
Volpera Death Knights.
The Void Elf ones are funny too because, you know, like the blue just doesn't really fit their Void aesthetic as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, every single ally, every race on Wowhead now has the Death Knight eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So go crazy making appearances and armor sets and seeing what your character would look like as a Death Knight.
And JD Saphir also being very helpful in the chat by linking the Wowhead notes there too. So you can use that to also check out what's going on. You can also
Awesome.
access all the links to the different topics that we're talking about on the Wowhead front page where the stream is embedded. So you can
Yep.
see all of the different links to the different topics that we're talking about today.
Yep. But yeah, as a reminder, when you pre-purchase Shadowlands and Visions of N'Zoth, which is early 2020, you will be able to play a Pandaren or allied race Death Knight. And the intro scenario is still under wraps, so we don't know the lore behind it, but we do know that it takes right before the Bovar cinematic with Sylvanas, and he works with the Ebon Blade and is asking those who passed away recently to come back and serve Azeroth once more. So all that came from BlizzCon interviews, but we don't know the exact specifics of, you know, like how long is the scenario and all those little details.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep, those are the DK updates here.
We also have some. We're gonna mix in some live and BFA news. So this was everything from the PTR build, but we got some news from live servers last week and some older PTR highlights. And I think we want to highlight the surprise guild finder that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I
unannounced.
noticed that.
Yeah,
it was actually funny. I noticed in my bottom right corner, you know, where the like, the guild button and everything is. I kept getting a little pop-up saying like new guild finder or something. And I click it, and I'm like, what's going on? What do you mean? What is new? Well, I am in the guild already. And then basically when I scroll down, I could see a few new features. So that's interesting. Let me open them up. I think it's really interesting that we randomly got an update to this now.
Yeah. Maybe they were thinking with the 15th anniversary, they wanted to get something out. Like find groups more easily for that. I don't know, Korak's Revenge, or people have difficulties with looking for group. But it's interesting because I remember at the Q&A when it was asked if people could, if there's going to be like a loosening of the faction restrictions, and Ian was like, no, but then Ian also said that they wanted to make better tools available so people could find groups easily. And I
he
feel
mentioned
like this
that.
was it. Yeah, I feel like this was the solution to that. So
yeah, so
I still
some updates on how to find a guild and how to list your own guild, so that you have an easier time finding other people. You can list guilds with what focus you have, if it's a social leveling guild, if it's a PvP guild, PvE guild, etc.
I feel like this would be also good as an app because when people are at work during the day, a lot of people will just sort of, you know,
yes,
idly browse guild listings, and you know, when you're looking at work, you likely aren't logged into WoW, so your boss is not upset with you. And
Yeah.
you have to be in game for this, I believe. So it would be nice if it was a website. I think that would be more robust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think having more ways to find people to play with is probably what retail needs, especially since people sometimes are a part of a guild and it disbands for one reason or another. And a lot of
Yeah.
people tend to stick to the people that they are with already, which is one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that people don't like about retail, comparing it to something like Classic, because in Classic,
Right.
everyone kind of knows everyone who's already there, especially if you've been
Yeah.
playing there for a long time. All the guilds are relatively known. Transfers don't really happen between servers, so there's like a big sort of network growing like that. But when you're on retail, because people have their own ways of talking to their own friends and everything, it can sometimes feel lonely for people. So having these extra tools to find people, I think, is probably necessary.
Yeah, so hopefully I would be curious to see data if this leads to an increase in people finding groups, or if these same issues persist.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's too early to say right now.
Yeah, we'll see how that
So
goes.
yeah. Another
Before
thing
we
we wanted
go,
to
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I
You
wanted
you
to
can go.
say, yeah, before we go on to the next topic, I wanted to thank Ucher
Oh
WH
yeah.
for the resub 14 months in a row,
Yay.
which also reminds me that JD Saphir also resubbed. I'll see if I can see the number of months. I think I can if I mouse over. Yes, 43 months in a row.
Oh wow.
But
That's
yep,
amazing.
very long time. Thank you to both of you guys. I just remembered that I was supposed to say that earlier, but I forgot. So thank you guys now instead. And yes, you were saying, Park.
Oh, I was saying that another interesting thing that you've probably known about based on all the traffic to the page is that you can actually do something on live servers. So I know usually retail has been quiet lately, but the Korak's Revenge, the Alterac
Mm-hmm.
Valley event, is actually very good for leveling alts above 60. So you'd want things obviously like, you know, heirlooms and your celebration package and all of that. But once you get in there, every minute you gain 3.5% of a level basically just for participating in the event.
Mm-hmm.
So for every 30 minutes you spend on the battleground, you gain a full level of just for participating from the passive experience. So that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you the end of game, if you win, you gain 100% of a level, and if you lose, you get 50% of a level. And you can
Really? It's
also
that
do
much?
yeah. Well, if you have like you know your heirlooms and your celebration package and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, when it's all fully stacked, you can get a ton of experience.
Okay.
And then there are daily quests, and the daily quests give you 20% of a level. So if you are grinding from, you know,
Mm.
60 to 120, you want to do things like, you know, turn in your armor scraps,
Mm-hmm.
you know, capture the graveyards, all of that. Also, destroying a tower is also good experience. That's like 7% of a level.
Gotcha.
So
Mm-hmm.
you know, get in there and do some AV and level up quickly if you don't want to buy character boosts. And with all the talk of the class specific fantasy in Shadowlands, you may want to level up some other classes to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
play around, see which one has, you know, the best covenant ability you like, you know, all of that
Mm-hmm.
good stuff.
So just
It's
a
funny
go ahead.
I just think it's funny how Legion was all like class fantasy, and then BFA it's like, oh, like the factions we hate each other, and now it's like class fantasy again.
Yep. Yeah, I wanted to say, so just a recap of the things that Perk mentioned. To gain the maximum experience possible when you're farming Alterac Valley on your alts, remember to equip all heirlooms that you have. Make sure that they're also upgraded to the correct levels. So if you're on a level 100 character, you need to make sure that your heirlooms that you have equipped are up to 110, otherwise they don't work. Um, you don't have to use the armor type that that character would normally use. It's 100% fine to use like cloth heirlooms on like a DH, which I have done a lot because I don't want to buy leather for everything and upgrade everything. It's a lot of
Right.
gold. Um, on top of that, there's two trinkets that you can use. One is from Gurubashi Arena and one is from Dark Moon Fair. Both of the arenas where you have the chest to loot. Those two trinkets give you 50% extra XP from Battlegrounds. And Alterac Valley is a battleground, so that's a lot of bonus experience. The Dark Moon Fair one is not available right now since Dark Moon Fair is not up, but the Gurubashi one is. What you can do every 3 hours is go to the arena in Stranglethorn Vale and try to loot the chest. I believe you need to loot it 12 times to get the heirloom. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is that you want to use your celebration package from the anniversary gift because that is a 15% experience gain.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also get the draught of 10 lands from the Honor Bound or 7th Legion vendor.
Gotcha. And yes, the XP boost stops when you're above that level. Somebody mentions the scaling, though. I'm not sure if the scaling helps. Do you know, Perk?
I don't know the specifics. I just know that it takes less than 3 hours to go from 110 to 120, and that the thing that matters the most is winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if heirlooms that have not been upgraded are fine because you are scaled down. I'm not sure, actually. That's an interesting one. But in general, yes, the XP bonus does get disabled when you are above the level of your heirloom piece. You may want to try it out yourself by like equipping it and like removing to see if you're getting the bonus or not for like the same XP of something. Maybe killing a mob outside or something just to test to see if it works or not. But I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We have a cat trying to.
Oh, so cute. Yeah, so what I always did, I normally level cloth characters, so I maxed all my cloth gear, and then whenever I level alts, I just make them use my cloth gear for the experience buff.
Yeah. Also, as a reminder, if you are trying to grind things, it's not as amazing, I believe, as the World Quest bonus event that was stacking with everything, but Pilgrim's Bounty is coming, and it has the Spirit of Sharing buff, with which stacks with the Celebration package for reputation gains. So that starts on Monday. So if you want to,
even more experience,
grind out, get some more experience there, but also reputation. So if you are trying to finish grinding out a faction, next week is really good for doing that.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So, but yeah, definitely a good time to level alts all the way to 120. From level 60 is very efficient, but you could even go below 60 as your character will scale up when you get into the Alterac Valley.
Right. Well, I mean, there is I think the minimum level for AV is 47, I want to say. So you can't, do this from like 1 to 120, but yeah.
Yeah, around 47, 48 then.
Yeah. So this next topic is it's not from today's PTR, but it's from a few days ago. And we were discussing this on last Wowhead Weekly. And it's still, I don't think they put the replacement on the PTR yet, but we were discussing that the Infinite Heart of Azeroth trait sort of appeared on the PTR last week, and it's going away.
Yep.
So
a lot of negative feedback. Yeah, a lot of negative feedback with this Infinite trait farm, and Blizzard decided to revert it. I think they're working on some other systems to still have somewhat of a reason to grind things, but not in the same way. So a lot of people are very happy about this.
Yeah, so what they're saying is they want to have more of an endgame system, and it actually sounds similar to what we were suggesting on the past shows when we talked about how the end bosses and other expansions handled it. And they're saying that your Heart of Azeroth item level will increase beyond level 80, but that's it for the actual heart. And you can you can get an item that keeps making your cloak better from horrific visions or defeating N'Zoth on normal, heroic, or mythic difficulty to add more corruption resistance, which then lets you eventually wear more corrupted armor pieces. And they liken this to the progression systems they had with Archimonde, how you could get that item to upgrade the item level of your ring, or from Argus, where you could increase the item level of your trinket.
Mm-hmm.
So we were saying that last time too, how we thought that the Legion model worked way better than the infinite grinding system,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it could be interesting to, you keep making your cloak better, and then eventually you can wear maybe another corrupted piece of gear
Yeah.
because you want your corruption low, so you
Increase
don't
the
have the
resistance.
horrific the effects, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an
So,
interesting. I think that's a more interesting take on it than just randomly infinite farm with no real feel good feeling. You know, like no real reward feeling. Just keep farming. There's no ending. It doesn't
yeah,
feel that
and I
great.
like how the sources that reward you, it's you have to defeat N'Zoth or do the horrific vision. So it rewards people that are doing challenging, like small group and then raiding content, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just like, oh, I gotta grind my islands and I'll eventually get the best possible
Mm-hmm.
thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I like how they're making the sources thematic that you have to do the challenge and things related to old gods in order to get the item.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
I think that was a positive change
Mm-hmm.
on the PTR.
I think so too.
Yeah. This next one was more interesting. I'd be curious to hear your opinion on it. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're still doing the math on everything related to Mythic Plus, but Blizzard announced that the rewards for Mythic Plus will be increased in Season 4 up to plus 15 keystones. And for completing a 15 keystone, which I believe you get this even if you don't do it in time, the end of dungeon chest is 465 gear, which is 5 item levels higher than heroic, and the weekly chest will give 475 gear, which is equivalent to mythic raid item level gear. And you have to keep in mind that with the nothing can Warforge or Titan Forge
Mm-hmm.
related to the cutting edge content in
Mm-hmm.
season 4. So it's not like, oh well, this could be 475 or 490. It's just, this is going to be 475.
Mm-hmm.
um so, and Blizzard's explanation for this was, with this change, we seek to better calibrate rewards to the difficulty of high-end Mythic Keystone dungeons, as well as to ensure that in the absence of the random chance for Warforged Titanforge gear in Season 4, players still have the opportunity to earn rewards from the dungeon system that are equivalent to high-end raiding and PvP loot.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you seen much discussion on this? Because I think I've seen a lot of people saying they think it's overall positive, but people are concerned that if you fail a 15 and you still get this item, then it doesn't that doesn't really seem to be equivalent to doing uh,
Rating.
killing a mythic boss. Yeah.
True.
Uh,
I saw
yeah.
that discussion too. I didn't go into it completely, so I don't know the exact opinions about this. But from what I can see, if you're farming, um, what you will get is a 465 piece for every dungeon, which is 5 above heroic. I don't
Yeah.
think that's very strong. So if you're not doing it in time,
Right.
I don't see the big deal for it.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, I can see that people who like to farm it a lot might be a little bit disappointed that they only get this type of gear and nothing above that for doing high mythic plus keystones. Second thing about the mythic raid item level that you get as part of the weekly chest,
Yeah.
you only get one piece of gear. And whether you do it in time or not, that's basically what we're doing now, right? Because when you
Right.
do a plus 10 today, you don't need to do it in time. As long as you complete it, you will get the max
Right.
item level gear in the chest. So I don't see why that would be changed. Um, should people who do it in time be rewarded more? Maybe. But it's only one piece of item. Because currently, what we get is
Right.
440, right? If we do a plus 10, we get a
Right.
440 piece in the chest. And if you do mythic rating, it's 445. So it's 5 item levels below. But because Titan Forging is removed, I assume they decided to, up it by 5 item levels. So it's equivalent to mythic rating. I think it sounds fine. You get one piece of
Yeah.
mythic raid item level a week. It may not be a good piece because it may have bad stats on it. You may not be 100% happy with it. So I don't think it's OP in any way. What was the negative feedback on it? That they think it's too easy to get mythic gear, or?
Yeah, like you could just do something it seems weird to fail at something and then get a piece of mythic loot. Well, it's like psychologically when you're doing a mythic boss, you have to defeat the boss to get something. Then there's also feedback where other people are saying, wow, I have to do a 15 instead of a 10 to on the other side of this, people are saying, wow, I have to do the 15 to get my rewards, not a weekly 10.
Okay.
Like this is harder.
Is 15 meant to be as hard as 15 is today? So to
Well,
get this
yeah.
is meant to be harder than today's 10s?
Well, that's also interesting because I didn't put this in the notes because we found it this morning. But the scaling of base dungeons has been scaled by 45% from season 3 to season 4 on the PTR, and usually it scales up by 30%. But people are saying because the gear is so powerful that your character is getting stronger, so maybe that balances out the scaling by 45% as opposed to the usual 30. So there's a lot of variables that are still being discovered on the PTR because obviously when you hear, usually it's 30 and now it's 45% harder, you're like, oh my god, it's so, so much worse. But then when you look at how, corrupted gear can maybe make you more powerful than the power gains in the past, then it maybe starts to, balance out on paper. But this is all like very preliminary.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
all
Hard
of
to
these
say.
calculations and loot discussions have happened in maybe the past 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's all these dramatic things are being thrown around. I will say though that I still think it's good that the Mythic Plus has the title and mount for doing the 10s and 15s in the upcoming season. Like, people that maybe don't care about loot as much or are like, oh, I could do many things. Why should I do this? This seems kind of boring. I think it's really good that they added the mount as the completionist reward for doing all the 15s.
I agree completely. I'm just curious to see whether the plus 15 will be as difficult as it is now, so people would have to work harder for the maximum weekly chest award, because I don't think it's such a big deal that you get 5 item level more than what you would get today.
I think based on the math that my coworker did, the transition to season 4 will make keystones about 4 levels harder. So and they're saying from season 1 to season 2, when you did the math, it was 3 level transition. Season 2 to season 3 was 4 levels harder when you compare a 10, and 6 levels harder when you do a 15 with how things scale differently. So 4 levels is actually sort of in the middle what we expect. It's worse than season 1 to 2, but in line with season 2 to 3.
Okay. Yeah, well, so people who do plus 10s nowadays, if it's going to be quite equivalent, they may not be able to do plus 15s, I guess. So if they complete a plus 10, you will get a... what item level do you get then?
They didn't say, and the PTR is down right now, so isn't that convenient? Yeah.
Somebody says 465 in the chat. I'm not sure how accurate that is.
Well, that was the 465 was, I believe, if you did the 15.
Yeah, that's the information that I see, that you get a 465 at the end of the dungeon when you complete the plus 15. So the question is what you get in the chest if you do a plus 10.
Right. But they did not specify, and the PTR is down.
I think this sounds fair. I don't think Mythic Plus people should be able to farm Mythic level gear by spamming it, which they kind of are now. I think a lot of people who do only Mythic Plus are basically Mythic geared, because eventually you have enough Titan Forges and War Forges for it to basically be Mythic gear. I think this way Mythic Plusers will find it a little bit harder to just simply spam, but eventually over time, over weeks, they will be Mythic geared with that 1 item a week. People who raid Mythic don't necessarily get upgrades every week either. So I think this sounds okay.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult balancing act trying to balance raid versus Mythic Plus versus PvP, how they're, 3 very different systems now. So I think it's good that they're trying something new, because it shows they're trying to improve things and adjust feedback versus just, sticking with the status quo, which people were, unhappy with before. So if you try this out on the PTR, and it doesn't feel good, definitely give Blizzard feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Wowhead comments, but the Blizzard forums feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm gonna read some more feedback on this as well. I want to see how people who don't do that much Mythic Plus, what they think about it, and people who do a lot of Mythic Plus, if they're upset
Yeah.
about this or if they're happy. This will be interesting. I did see the topic on whether you make the timer or not being a bit of a question mark.
Yeah. Come on, Brit.
But I think that's not very dissimilar to how it is now, so I don't see the big deal with it.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for our BFA and PTR news, right?
Yep.
We've got an interesting bit of no cat. We've got an interesting bit of Shadowlands news, actually, which I was not expecting because it was sort of in a lull after BlizzCon. But we learned Game Informer is doing a month of content reveals related to Blizzard, and a lot of the stuff is, Diablo or Overwatch, but they have a bunch of Shadowlands news as well. And while we got to try out Bastion at BlizzCon, they got an early look at the Revendreth zone, where you take a little carriage ride around, and they learned a bit about the wards and even a new faction, which I thought was really interesting. So I can recap the interview a little and discuss the faction, because the faction also ties into, I think, like maybe an auction house, Brutosaur replacement. So first up, Revendreth. There are 5 wards that you got to see on this little carriage ride tour. And some of them are pretty obvious what you'd expect in a castle. You've got the village ward, cathedral, ember, castle, and military. I liked how the graveyard talked about sin stones, because Revendreth is where you go if you are a flawed soul like Kalthus. And the Venthyr vampires are kind of like torturing and purifying you, and as you do your penance, the sins get erased from your gravestone. So I don't know. I just like this idea of all these tombstones with all your bad deeds written on them, and like all the complaints, and then they erase them out on you. But the detail that stuck out to me the most was called the Ember Ward, and it's the part of the castle that's filled with light, and they send all the misbehaving vampires there because you can't, kill people outright, but if you put them in the light, it's a punishment because they're vampires. And that just sounded really cool and twisted, being in this, gloomy castle and then having the one area with light. And they didn't specify if this was just, sunlight attacking the souls there, or if this was more like the cosmic force of the light, which would also be interesting if, because we've had hints that the light can be used in a harsh manner with, Illidan and the Maghar Orc scenario. So it would be interesting if the light is now being used here too as like, I don't know, like a harsh tool to get these vampires back in line. So
I saw some comments on Wowhead, like allied race vampire.
Yes, that would be cool. But then the part that stuck out to me the most was something called the Brokers, which are a new faction, and their description is: the Brokers are a faction separate from the Covenants and the Maw, sort of soul traders that can move freely around the Shadowlands. In the wake of the recent calamities, the Brokers have taken this chance to capitalize on new opportunities for profit and perhaps more. They are similar in appearance to the Ethereal faction, and the team's comments lead me to believe they'll be just as shady and manipulative throughout this expansion as our old friends. So that stood out because we've been hearing a lot about, the Covenant faction and how they're tied to their zone, and here we have a faction that's not tied to a zone, and they must have this interesting history if it's a big deal that you can travel between zones without, like facing repercussions. Like, we were considered to be very special as the Maw walkers who can, leave the Maw and travel to different places. So I feel that the Broker is going to have this weird history as well. And when I hear manipulative and ethereals, I think that maybe the Brokers are, I don't know, like, are they going to be selling the Brutosaur? Are they going to be the ones handling the auction house? Are they going to be the traders that, sell us our ketchup gear every patch, stuff like that? So, I don't know. I feel like they could start off just sort of as these, like, weird, creepy vendors, and then towards the end of the expansion, they actually have, like, a very interesting lore, like with the ethereals, like they were like, oh, it's the transmog vendor, but then we learned in 7.3 that Locust Walker was teaching Illyria the ways of the void, and then we got the void elves, and then the Brawlers Guild mystery, the murder mystery, had the ethereal behind it too. So I feel that if the brokers are similar, they could be kind of doing some
Behind
interesting
some
story
shady
stuff.
things.
Yeah. But yeah, I totally think that if they're a faction we can grind rep with, that they would give us the equivalent of the Brutosaur. Because they're like,
yeah.
oh, if they want to capitalize on new opportunities for profit.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I got you a deal. You're gonna, there's like this weird soul mount thing.
It would be so funny if if they're also the reason why they're going extinct in one way or another.
Oh yeah, that would be really funny too. Like, oh, the Brutosaur died, and we took its. Oh no.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Right.
I find it so funny how Brightpaw is so like not even careful about it. Like, whoop, you get off here. Because that's one thing that's funny with Luna. Even in her craziest feral moments, she's very, very careful when she's walking through things. Like she's like tiptoeing, like, not to knock anything off. And Brightpaw is just like, that's funny. Like these Murlocs have been here on her cat tree for weeks, and she doesn't push it off. She just passes them.
Come on, baby. Baby.
Oh, this is so funny.
Baby, we were talking about Revendreth. You interrupted us.
I don't like vampires. They're spooky. But yes.
Yes.
A ghostly mighty caravan Brutosaur. For 6 million gold. 5 million and 1.
Yeah. I think it'd be weird if you had some sort of ethereal spaceship. I can't believe he just walked off with the doll's purse in his mouth.
The purse.
All that.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my god, great, Paul. Let's put this here to make it look less bad. Oh god, even the plushies.
Oh no, he doesn't want to sit there.
This is just sad. But yeah, it's I just thought the brokers were interesting because they make such a big deal that we can't move from normally souls don't move from zone to zone, but these guys are. So I think we're gonna get some like weird, I don't know, auction house spaceship, or maybe they'll be like, oh well, when you're out there in the Shadowlands zone and you can't get back to the town, take our portable auction house with you. I totally think that's going to be a thing.
I think so too, honestly. And it would be the perfect faction for it if this will be a thing.
Yeah. And it's nice to hear about more factions that are tied to the overall story, because you don't want to feel like you're going into, a theme park and there's just characters related to one zone, and then,
And
you leave the zone.
Forgotten about, yeah.
Yeah, so I like the idea that these guys can maybe have some cohesion as you go through the different parts of Shadowlands. So, another interesting thing, talking about not moving, is that in the interview they talked about a place called the Enmire under the castle, and it's where the twisted souls end up that like got assigned to the wrong region, and they keep being moved around, and they get like more sickly. So that's really interesting if the broker faction can move around, while most souls that move around become very ill and disfigured. So I wonder if we would meet any characters there that maybe people thought were one type and then were miscategorized, ended up somewhere else. But all that was just interesting little hints. The zones still seem very preliminary, but I thought we learned a few, neat details about what was going on there. But yeah, so we don't have a ton of Shadowlands news besides that. That was just like a little interesting freebie that we found.
But we do have some more WoW things. Classic, specifically.
Classic and even Warcraft 3.
Yes, we do.
I was really surprised by that. Yeah. So, big classic news. We don't have an exact date, but the Battlegrounds are coming the week of December 10th. Which is 3 weeks or so after the honor system launched. And it's a bit more accelerated, but similar to how patch 1.4 in April 25, 2005 had the honor system. The Battlegrounds were early June in 1.5, and then Blackwing Lair was later in July in patch 1.6.
Oh, so
So Blizzard,
originally it was also like a month or two in between.
yeah, and
Okay.
they staggered it out. So originally the Battlegrounds and Blackwing Lair and Darkmoon Faire were all meant to be phase 3, but Blizzard decided to split that out. It's funny, I wonder if at some point they're going to just announce that they're releasing content by the old patch system versus the 6 phases, because they haven't really stuck to the 6 phases at all.
Mm-hmm. I think they might
Like,
realize
yeah,
how things are just more fitting at certain
right.
times instead.
Yeah, like, for people that aren't fans of PvP, the realms are pretty rough when you're just dealing
Leveling.
with world PvP.
Yeah.
And, people have to do that to get their ranks, but because
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the instance PvP to grind out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't had anything follow phase 2. I mean, we had Dire Maul was split out from the world PvP system, the rankings, and now we're going to have a cat jump as well.
Oh.
And we're also going to have the Battleground split out from Blackwing Lair and Darkmoon Faire. And the raid will be coming in early 2020 as well, which makes me wonder because patch 8.3 is also early 2020. So, like, is Blizzard going to stagger them slightly so you can
I
do
think they
both
have
things?
to, right? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
8.3 has to come out first because
Mm-hmm.
8.2 has lasted for a while. And
Yeah.
we went through, Classic. Most of us went ahead and spent a month or two playing Classic to level to 60, start some raiding. And then a lot of us kind of went back to retail as well because once you are max level, unless you enjoy world PvPing, there may not be that many things to do. So a lot of people have also come back from that going and playing more retail again and feeling like, hey, when's 8.3? Like, oh, we're still
Right.
in Eternal Palace? Like, I was gone for a month or two playing Classic. Like, when is this gonna be
Yeah.
continued? So I do think the 8.3 has to come out first. And then I'm guessing Phase 3 would maybe be pushed into February?
Yeah, I think that would make sense. And you always have to wonder, when is the 8.3 raid coming? Like, if the 8.3 raid could be coming in, say, January, then maybe Blackwing Lair would be February or March even. Like, but I feel that's
Mm-hmm.
still too much of a gap. I would say maybe February
I
for
think
Blackwing
February.
Lair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe 8.3 in like the second week or so of January. And then
Yeah.
2 weeks after that, maybe the raid. So we're still in January. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then Classic maybe mid February or so. The
Yeah.
Phase 3, I mean.
Something that sort of slipped through the cracks is the idea of the
Nice.
the invasions. I feel like just sort of flew under the radar, but the invasions are coming with the Battlegrounds the week of December 10th as well.
Wait, what were invasions?
They're like elemental invasions, and they drop things like the Ace of Elementals if you're grinding out for the Darkmoon Faire trinkets.
Oh,
They drop, I
okay.
think, Storm Shroud gloves. They drop a lot of like essence of air, essence of fire, elemental crafting materials, stuff like
Okay.
that.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so that's also coming. That was sort of like a, well, what are these things again? We forgot what they were.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm glad that Blizzard didn't, be like, oh, we gotta release Battlegrounds next week. I'm glad they are trying to pace it more like the original game.
Mm-hmm. It does feel good that
Yeah.
they're introducing things because it fits. Like I feel like having the battlegrounds very soon is very fitting because a lot of people probably went out and ventured into PvP for the first time properly with this honor system introduced, and then maybe some people are sick of the world PvP aspect and want to continue PvP but in a more instanced version. So I think it's great to have the battlegrounds.
Yeah, I also want to clarify that while we know it's the week of the 10th, we don't know if it's the 10th exactly. I know normally we're used to releases happening on Tuesdays, but you have to remember that the honor system started on that
On a
Thursday,
Thursday,
not
yeah.
Tuesday.
Well, it was meant for Tuesday, right? And then it was extended.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I'm honestly not sure at this point. I
Okay.
feel like everyone just assumed the week of, and it's like, oh, actually, it's not.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll see.
I mean, it did seem a bit weird though because we didn't really have a full the first week wasn't a full week.
Mm-hmm.
So, um Yeah, so that's coming, and as a reminder, that's Warsong Gulch and Alterac Valley, and the 2 reputations associated with each.
Mm-hmm.
Arathi Basin came in a later patch, so that is Phase 4, not Phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Apparently, there were also some kind of honor problems with Phase 2. I haven't really looked into it,
Oh
but do you
yeah,
know about
so
that?
yeah, so I think there were 2 main issues. One was a display issue where the rank seemed to be calculated more or less correctly, but the total kills and kills from the week were wildly different, as if the display didn't update to count several days of kills. And I think Blizzard said this was a cache issue, some sort of display bug, but they were being calculated correctly. And then the other issue, there were 2 things going on. The second issue was oh yeah, people weren't seeing their rank update at all. Uh, and some people on US servers saw the rank updating, and other people saw last week's honor, and people were stressed out because they're like, people that are a certain rank can buy important pieces like, PvP trinkets, and I can't buy anything yet because the game thinks I'm, rank 0, not
Mm-hmm.
rank 3.
Mm-hmm.
So Blizzard is doing realm restarts, I believe, today. I think they even took place to try to fix the issues for that earlier today.
Got you.
So, but yeah, it just seems to be a cache issue. Blizzard said that
Mm-hmm.
internally they are tracking everyone's kills, so that they have everything internally. These are just display issues that were affecting people. And as you know, there's no character API or public leaderboards. It's not like Mythic Plus where you can see everyone in a region. People are, asking around and comparing screenshots and trying to figure out like why they weren't showing the correct values on it. So there's a lot of confusion
Mm-hmm.
surrounding that, but I think it's getting resolved now. It's obviously unfortunate when a large part of the population is like, I hate this world PvP, get rid of it, and the people that are into PvP are like, I'm not having
You're
my kills count.
disappointed.
It's like
Yeah.
people on both sides are very were sort of stressed out by
Yeah.
last week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Briarpaw's like, yep, this is me PvPing.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a feral druid. This is me PvPing.
This is what happens to you if you get any close to me.
Yep.
I think that's it
So
on the classic news as well, right?
yeah, we have a few interesting things planned that guide wise, which we might have a post on soon. Basically, it works for BFA. What is he doing? That's we have a lot of classic people are asking us to have a Discord bot that does item lookups, and we have that working for BFA and Classic. So it's currently active in Wowhead's Discord,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just responding to feedback, and we are going to be promoting that whenever we don't have a PTR build. So that's a cool thing that I think a lot of Classic people will appreciate because they can. It's not like retail where you're looking for the name of an item, but you also want to know if it's like Mythic with a socket. With Classic, you just type in the name of something and you get a very straightforward response. So that's a cool thing we have planned for the Classic community. But yeah, besides that, it's pretty quiet. A lot of people are grinding out their ranks. I think the top rank I saw was rank 4 after the first
Mm-hmm.
truncated week.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were really excited to go out and buy those PvP trinkets, the class specific ones. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, looking forward to more of the instance organized content again. Because at least on my end, I saw a lot of just casual trends on Wowhead that the people got kind of scared off by the world PvP and were off playing, Pokemon or Star Wars last weekend.
Wait, you
As
can
a
you can tell those kind of
yeah,
trends?
yeah, like
That's
we
funny.
saw we saw like things go down a little bit more than usual, and then our traffic to guides covering those games like do better than average. So I'm like, I'm noticing something
Wait, you
here.
have guides on Pokemon and Star Wars?
Yeah, we have our sister site, Fanbyte. They do like
Oh,
games
so
to the
you can
top
see this.
questions.
So you can see the
Yeah,
stats on all of it then.
yeah.
Interesting.
So so
Okay.
that was just interesting because
Yeah, that is
normally
interesting.
when there's a WoW update, normally you see like
More people
renewed
play.
interest, but this
Mm-hmm.
was like
It went
it was
down.
sort of, it was more like polarizing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like we saw like some really good traffic to our PvP guides, but then for the more general casual leveling stuff, it's like
Not gonna
let's
level.
yeah, yeah, not looking for the dungeon entrance, not looking for the outdoor quest.
Gotcha. See, Wowhead sees everything, guys. If you're in the
Yeah,
chat right now, you've
yeah.
been exposed. You're not leveling anymore. You're playing Pokemon and Star Wars. We know.
Yep.
We know everything. Before we jump into the next topic, I can see that Rada Kurth has done a 16-month resub. Actually, no, it's 17
Oh,
months even. So thank you very much for that, Rada, for supporting Wowhead for a long time.
yeah. So our final topic, because we cover all things WoW related here, is that there was a big Warcraft 3 model update,
Yep.
I think 2 days ago. And, you know, we play Alliance here, we care about Night Elves, so we just wanted to show some of the really interesting ones. I think people really like the Illidan model. Tyrande is more, she doesn't, it's like they're trying to make her modern, but she doesn't exactly have the same armor.
Wait,
She sort of
let
has
me.
like a, she has like a bodysuit on as opposed to a dress. But overall, I really like the models, especially the Illidan one. He has really cool wings.
Mm-hmm.
And
Let me
the
get the
fairy
wings up
dragon
too. There we go.
is really cool. Uh, One interesting bit of data mining is that in original Warcraft 3, the Demon Hunter and Death Knight heroes were male only. And now in the Reforged data mining, there's only the female body option right now, but there are hints that male will be added. It's still in development. But the
Mm-hmm.
female Demon Hunter looks really cool. It looks very similar to Legion, especially the Metamorphosis version. So that's a nice bit of, you know, continuity between you know,
The
the
games.
how like Warcraft 3 came first and introduced the idea of the Demon Hunter, and then Legion really added a lot of story and
Mm-hmm.
art assets to them, and now Reforged is upping their visuals up and making them look even cooler.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
So, and yeah, it just they all looked very cool. Priestess of the Moon looks cool. I love all the mounts because they're just like big fluffy cats.
Yeah,
Obviously we like cats on this show.
we do.
Um, but yeah, it's also really cool to see all these characters related to Legion that played minor roles. Like for example, Maiev, you know, was in the Tomb of Sargeras,
Mm-hmm.
and then there were the comments about the Sentinels that she lost, and like her history with Illidan. And it's really cool to now see that dramatized because I think it adds a lot of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
meaning to that. Like I know there are people who play WoW that have been familiar with the franchise for decades, but you also have people that were just like, oh man, I'm playing this for fun. What's the Broken Shore? And they don't know this,
Yep.
they don't have this encyclopedic knowledge of why the Broken Shore is important, or, you know, why a crumbling statue is meaningful because it played a role in Warcraft 3. So I really like how they're revising this pivotal part. Right. No need.
Oh, need to show what's going
Yeah.
on. We can see Bright Paw's ears here on the camera.
Yes. But yeah, I just really like seeing this pivotal period in Warcraft's history getting
Mm-hmm.
all this loving attention.
Mm-hmm.
So
I see someone in the
yeah.
chat saying, "What is this?" So these are the newly dug out pictures, updates from Warcraft 3 Reforged. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
very recognizable characters because of the World of Warcraft world in general. But it's it's not in. This is not for World of Warcraft. This is for Warcraft 3 Reforged.
A lot of people are having fun comparing the versions because you know, it's like you get to see in the story, like, you know, how Arthas became the Lich King, which is obviously very relevant now that we're back in Shadowlands.
Yep.
Or you get to see, you know, Sylvanas actually as a high elf, and then how she was an undead in her banshee form, which looks really similar to the Shadowlands trailer. Or we get to see, you know, Tyrande like fighting in the forest, and usually in, you know, Warcraft we see her being more of like a pacifist and, you know, leader of these, you know, peaceful night elves. So it's like all these origin stories for the characters, and I think it's fun to compare the WoW models to the Reforged models because they're trying to make them look similar, but there's obviously a different art style. So it's I mean, it's obviously it's the almost the opposite of fan art, but it's still a fun thing where it's like, how did this other team interpret this character? Which I always think it's cool how it's like this character is recognizable, but the art style is a bit different. And how did they keep all the characteristics but make them fit a different style? And a lot of people love these models, like, oh, they look so detailed. I, wish WoW had all this level of high definition. So I don't know, maybe if enough people like this, Blizzard will keep that in mind and be like, people really respond well to this art style. Like how they were saying they were inspired by the classic feedback and how that's related to how they're designing Torghast to be very, unforgiving and not as, not as convenient in some ways. But yeah, I love these models, and we highlight models from Reforged every day, but we don't really talk about them on the show. We just wanted to highlight these because every few weeks Blizzard drops a new part of the campaign that you can test. So we had, we didn't see any Night Elf models until this week. And then like a few weeks ago, we data mined all the undead, and a few weeks before that, all the orcs and so on. So this was a big deal, actually getting to see, like Illidan finally high definition. But yeah, I mean, we have posts on like Tuskars and, lobsters and all these other things that are too small potatoes for the show, but we thought that the Night Elves were worth their own little spotlight, seeing how they got interpreted into a different game.
And all of these look really amazing as well.
Yeah, we still don't know when the game's coming out, but
yeah, that's
I don't know if they'll just be like, oh, game is next week, time for, like Christmas time, grind out some Warcraft 3.
Wait, it's supposed to be in 2020, right?
No, 2019.
Sorry, yes, that's what I meant. Like, it's supposed to be this year.
Yeah, there's
not much time left.
No.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Huh, I wonder if they regret that.
Yeah, it seems kind of strange. And I know they keep testing more and more in the beta, but it just, I don't know, it definitely seems odd we don't have a release date.
Yeah. With this little time left, it does feel a bit odd.
Yeah.
Because it feels like they were probably planning to release it earlier, but then it wasn't ready.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely models that are still unfinished. Like, they have the racing map, and we data mined 2 of the cars, and they look pretty funny and wild, but the other 2 cars aren't finished yet. Or, like I was saying with the Demon Hunters, there's actually lines in the code being like, oh, use female Demon Hunter for now because we don't have the male model in the code yet. So, here's a code hack to ignore the male option for now. So those are all little things I think still need to be added before it actually goes live.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the Warcraft 3 news for now.
Yep. Oh yeah, as a side note, we've been kind of restructuring some of our Discord webhooks. We used to have all the Warcraft 3 and Diablo and Overwatch news categorized as Blizzard, and that was like a universal category all the webhooks would get. But we've made an other not Warcraft news filter, so you can subscribe to the other Blizzard news webhook if you care about stuff like Diablo or the Warcraft 3 models. So you won't get as many Blizzard updates in your feed. You'll just get, major site announcements like Wowhead Weekly, because it covers all the games. But yeah, I know some people were like, oh, Warcraft 3, why is it showing up in my BFA webhook? And it now no longer, it won't show up in your classic webhook or your BFA webhook. You'll just see it if you subscribe to the other news webhook, or if you have the master one that gives you everything posted on Wowhead.
Awesome. I think it makes sense when something is still new to have them just sort of combined, since they have a lot in common. And now when the game is getting so close to releasing on its own, then I think whoever was interested now will just follow it, and whoever wasn't probably still wouldn't necessarily be that interested.
Yeah. So there's also a sense where it's like, when it's like BlizzCon and we're like, oh, let's do an Overwatch post and see how it does. And it's like, okay, maybe people aren't as interested, but then when we compare all the notes and we're like, well, the Diablo articles did really well. They were like, oh, maybe we should make our own Diablo webbook because the audience really, Overwatch they're like about, but they really love Diablo. So now we've learned that if people want to see more of that, we should make it's a bigger category, and have that section grow without irritating people with the webhook.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think that's awesome. And apparently you had an update to the navigation header as well on the website.
Yeah, we're reverse aging on Wowhead. So I know people like Wowhead's kind of old school layout, but there's a difference between being vintage and looking kind of outdated, rusty. So we redid the top part of all web pages. Classic still looks super old school, but for BFA, we figured that people have more of like modern browsing sensibilities. They use other websites that are more flashy, more modern style. So we updated the menus, and we got rid of a lot of the dead space at the top of the page. Like we had like bars that were separated with space, and we got rid of all that. We moved the search bar to the center because we love our database, we love search, and we made the menus just look more modern and like please click on me. And we think that this better shows off our strengths with the search bar in the center, and the guide categories look way nicer than before, so we can show off our fun stuff like classes or Mythic Plus or allied races. And because it's more compact, then that moves up not only the ads on the page, but also the things like the blue tracker or the list of news or the individual news articles. We've cut down on some of the filler space at the top to move the important stuff up slightly higher on the page.
To find everything a lot faster.
Yeah, so we're really happy with that. We awesome. Are working on the other parts of the website on the front page, so we have some more stylistic things coming to Today in WoW, or the bottom part with all the separate news articles to make that more cohesive. But we think that by updating this on every single page, it's made a big difference, and we are really happy to get that out. And so far people have liked it, and there hasn't.
That's awesome.
Nothing has really blown up, so that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's really good to hear. I think sometimes making those design differences makes such a big difference for the user experience. So it's nice to see that Wowhead also puts some emphasis on it, and make sure to keep things as modern and as easy to use as possible, because that's what we want at the end of the day when we go to new websites.
Not on our classic site. We want that to be as blinding white.
Hashtag no changes. That's a special one. But like in general, you want to go to a website and be able to find what you need ASAP. You don't want to spend time learning the website. You want to spend time finding the information that you want. So, unless you're playing classic, that's different.
Yes.
Then you want to feel like you're, in 2005.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's actually about it in terms of the content in the past week. I'm glad that we were able to fit in some of the PTR stuff. It did lead to a little bit of a delay of the show, but I think it was worth it. We got to...
Yeah, I appreciate you delaying it. Like, I could have pushed to do it at 1:30, but I'm like, I didn't eat yet. I should probably eat instead of just managing people. So
I'm like, Perk, it's important to eat. Like, I'm okay. Like, we'll delay the show a little bit. It's 100% fine. Getting the extra PTR things and getting food is, good reasons.
Yeah, I'm glad we waited for the Brutosaur too, because, like I said, at the start of the PTR, I was like, is this going away? I don't think it's going away, but it's worded that way. And then after the PTR is wrapping up, they made the blue post being like, oh yeah, it is going away. And it's like, new thing to cover and put in the notes.
I saw this question earlier in the chat, but I forgot to read it. Deepwind Gorge. I heard that apparently the achievements for that is going away.
Oh yeah, actually that was, I didn't think that was important for like, oh my god, write this now post, but I was planning on covering it soon. And I guess I'll just cover it now on the show if I can ever find it. Okay, so Deepwind Gorge is being reworked as a battleground.
Okay.
And as part of that, you can like I believe there's going to be it's like smaller groups of people to queue up against, and a lot of the achievements didn't make sense to keep. So if
Oh, they're
you
changing
got
it to 10 men instead, or?
yeah, so basically it's still saying a battleground,
Mm-hmm.
but it's I think it's 15. Wait, this is
Because I haven't had a
I
chance to read about it, but I
yeah,
did hear that the achievements are going away, at
yeah.
least some of
So
them.
the old meta is going to be Legacy, Feat of Strength,
Mm-hmm.
but they added a new meta today, still Master of Deepwind Gorge, and
Okay.
it seems way easier. You just have to do 100 wins and beat Deepwind Gorge 1500 to 0 to get the gorgeous title.
Wait, oh, you still get the gorgeous title?
Yeah, and you just
Oh.
have to do the 100 wins and do the 1500 to 0 win. But you don't have to do stuff like, capture the enemy minecart 4 times in a single battleground, or, assault a mine, defend a mine, capture a mine, return a
That
mine.
seems a
All
little bit
those.
too little, don't you think? Only one achievement besides the 100 wins. Maybe more will be added later?
I don't. I mean, they said in the blue post that you just had to do the 3 achievements, and this had also the 3 achievements: win it once, win it
Okay.
100 times, do that. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like people didn't really participate in Deepwind Gorge as much, and the title was kind of like happy silly. So maybe they want this to be a gateway for people to PvP. We're like, oh, good job, you got this. Now work on,
Hmm.
Battle Master or a con. But I was surprised at how easy it was.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I
but
don't think
thanks for
any
reminding me.
battleground meta is
No,
that easy.
no, it's definitely just those 3 things, and let me I think even Halinka he made tweets being like, no, it's still staying. Like we're gonna make a meta that only has 3 things that are part of it. So yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
seems intended for now.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Maybe I'll make a post highlighting
Mm-hmm.
that. The title is really funny. Like
Yeah, I thought the title
it's a
would go
gorgeous title.
away, and it's a really nice title, gorgeous. People ask me
Yeah.
quite often, like, where did you get that? And I'm like, BGs. They're like, what? No way. I was like, yeah, just do PvP. Um,
Yeah.
but okay, so they're not removing it; they're putting a new achievement in place. What about people who already have it? Do they have to redo those achievements?
They didn't specify. Uh,
Because I'm guessing
let
100 wins
me.
can easily be tracked, so you'd probably automatically get that one. But I
Right.
wonder things like, 1500 to 0, if that's trackable
So
or.
I'm looking at this and I see for the criteria, I it they show the criteria using the old battleground ID and then the criteria with the new battleground ID, like
Hmm.
the reworked version. So I think it will take both into account.
Okay,
And it still uses the old achievement ID added in patch 5.3. So
okay,
to me, that shows that like your progress will not be reset.
okay. Hmm.
And if it is being reset, there probably should be a blue post on that because that's pretty big. But
Yeah,
I don't think it would be a reset.
no. I really doubt 100 wins would be reset. The
Yeah, that'd be weird.
1500, I don't know, maybe because of some programming reason, but probably not either. So
Let
that's
me
good.
check that too. Yeah, no, it's the same one.
Same one. Okay.
Same achievement from patch 5.3.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So
So if you already have all
yeah,
the achievements, you should be fine. If you don't have it, you can wait until it gets easier
yeah,
and get the gorgeous title.
yeah, yeah.
Yep,
That was a
yep.
good question.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for highlighting that. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you for asking. And now I think we've covered all the important things that we wanted
Awesome.
to talk about. As usual, there's always more things on Wowhead. You can, join the Discord as well to get the updates live. You can also follow the Twitter, where a lot of them are tweeted out as well. Wowhead Weekly tries to pick the most interesting topics, the topics that probably can touch most people, and or that are the most important, the most interesting, rather, maybe not important. So if you want to read
Pepe.
more, you can
Pepe
always.
is very important.
Pepe is
Yeah.
very important. So any update on Pepe will be covered. But you can check Wowhead for any other news as well if you want to, if you're hungry for more information.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah,
Thanks
I think
everyone
so too.
for reading our PTR coverage, tuning into the show, even though it was slightly later. We love everyone sharing all the weird PTR finds via word of mouth. There might even be some later on today because the PTR realms haven't come up yet. So whenever they do, we might discover more things. We have to see. But yeah, so far it's been a really fun, busy day, and I'm glad I was able to, run the build and then also have time to do the show.
Indeed. I was going to show off my For the Alliance shirt, then I realized that it's mirrored because I've mirrored myself. I'm used to having Perk on this monitor here,
right.
so I want it to look like I'm looking at her. So I mirrored my camera so that I'm not looking that way randomly. So that means that my shirts are now backwards, but it's okay. At least you guys know that it's For the Alliance.
Yeah, we are both For the Alliance here.
Yes.
I don't know who Brightpaw is for. He's like attacking.
Yeah, maybe Brightpaw and Luna for the Horde.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, we'll see you guys again. Oh, actually, speaking of seeing you guys again, we're not going to have a show next week on Thursday for two reasons. One, I'm traveling for DreamHack here in Sweden, DreamHack Summer. And two, it's probably a good time to have a break since it's Thanksgiving and a lot of places in North America as well. So, yeah, 1 week of no show. So we'll be back. Sorry, it's not DreamHack Summer, DreamHack Winter.
Yeah, it's like, what? I'm like, oh, are you going to like Australia or something for summer?
Yeah, it's definitely not summer, and I can feel it because it's cold in my house. Actually, I switched on the heater today, the extra heater, on top of the regular heaters because I was freezing. But yeah, it's DreamHack Winter, not summer. So I'll be there for the weekend. But we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, regular time, with whatever news that we have then.
Awesome.
That's the plan. Yes. And I think it's time for the high five, though.
Yeah, it's time for the high five.
All right.
So, yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, we did it.
Yay. And no Brightpaw being like, why is there noise?
Yeah, what are you doing, Mom?
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for supporting, hanging out, all the subs, resubs, and all the people following as well, all the people watching on the Wowhead front page. Also, shout out to people who subscribe with Wowhead Premium or Wowhead Premium. How do you pronounce it?
I like Premium.
Premium?
Yeah. More American accent. Premium. Yeah.
More American. Premium. Thank you guys all for supporting in all the different ways. And we'll be back next time.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. And yes, have a great rest of your evenings, nights, afternoons, mornings. It's 1 a.m. here in Europe. Happy Thanksgiving for next week. Enjoy all your food. Bye-bye.
Bye.